Welcome back, grade 12s. So now that we've handed in phase 1, let's have a look at what is needed for phase 2. Okay, so we can see here when we look at our document, we've got a questionnaire, right? We have some technical aspects on that questionnaire itself. We've got a spreadsheet on the technical side, quality side of things with the spreadsheet as well. Graphs on the spreadsheet itself, the complexity. The spreadsheet is worth a lot of marks. Then a database validation, processing of the database, complexity of the queries, the report and the complexity of the report. And that gives you a total of 44 marks. But let's just simplify this. Okay. So without getting too complicated, let's go through these. So you can see that the first thing we need to do is create a questionnaire, right? So this is going to be an electronic form. You could use a Google form as well, but this questionnaire, and I think they had an example. Let me just see in the addendums over here if they have an example of the questionnaire. Not too sure. I know sometimes they do have that. No. Okay, so they don't have one. Right. So I'm going to give you an example. I'll show you exactly what it needs to look like. But we have our questionnaire. So this is going to be a document or your Google form that you're going to use to get information from others, right? So there needs to be clear instructions as to what you want them to do, how you want them to answer it. The questions must be relevant, obviously, to the topic. It must not be found in other sources. So, in other words, the questions that you're going to create here are going to be different from the ones you created in your 3 tables, right? Or that one big table with those 10 questions, different questions. The questions must enable processing in a spreadsheet or database. So, one thing that's important here, when you create one of these, please just remember that you need to pull those answers into a database. So these need to be closed questions, yes or no, select the following, those type of questions. And there must be at least 25 questionnaires. So if you're creating a Word document with an electronic form, then you will have 25 pages because it'll be 25 completed questionnaires. Your Google form, same story. I know with Google, it's nice because you can actually take the finished form and turn that into a spreadsheet, so you can extract all that info. So that helps. All right. So a questionnaire. Then on the questionnaire as well, is it a form that's being created electronically? Do you have appropriate questions grouped together? So when you create a questionnaire, you're going to ask for the person's name, age, gender. That will be grouped together. Asking them, maybe do they know anything about privacy when it comes to computers and smartphones? Do they practice any sort of level of privacy on their device? Okay, that'll then give you information, because you might be talking to people who are, say, between 16 and 18. So ideally what's going to happen is in your spreadsheet you'll end up putting in data that you can then extract into a graph as well, showing 50% of the 16-year-olds that you spoke to did not practice any sort of privacy on their smartphone devices. That is what or where you want to get to at the end of the day. So has the form been created electronically? Now guys, just for doing this, that's 4 marks. Creating it electronically, another mark. Appropriate questions grouped together, at least 5 questions. So your questionnaire needs only be 5 questions long, except name, age, gender. Right? Name, age, gender is going to be there. That's fine. Then your questions start. Okay, so that's not included. And then if you've got a good professional layout, not with a whole lot of colors and things like that, you'll be fine. You'll get your 4 marks. And that's how you'll get your 8 marks for your questionnaire. Once the questionnaire is done, we're going to take that data and pop that into a spreadsheet. Okay, again, I'll show you what this looks like. I'll show you 1 or 2 examples. But here you can see you need a separate worksheet for your results, well-designed layout, well-formatted. Again, just simple, clean layouts. easy to read and interpret, and that's 4 marks just for that, right? Then another 4 marks for data suitable to a spreadsheet analysis, and it says they're excluding irrelevant biographical data. Analysis includes relevant appropriate data other than responses from the respondents. Spreadsheet processing and analysis of data is suitable to the solution. Functions applied and done correctly. Have you popped in some formulas? Again, I'll show you an example. So that's 8 marks. Then they want you to take some of that data that you have and create at least one relevant, meaningful graph. A second graph that will contribute to the solution. So they want 2 graphs, right? Appropriate types of graphs used and the graph easy to interpret. So you can just pop in a pie chart, your bar graph, you know, which is a typical one, but they want 2 easy to read and appropriate graphs. That's it. That's how you get your 4 marks. Then one thing that confuses a lot of people is this section here, your spreadsheet complexity. So they want at least one meaningful calculation from level 1. Okay, so in order to get your 4 marks, what do you have to do? You have to have one formula from each one of these levels. A level 1 function will be sum, min, max, count, average, len, value, etc. Right? If you want a level 2, you've got to go with round, large, small, left, right. Now, if you were to, use round with average, right? So you get your average answer and you want to round it off and you put round in there. Beautiful, right? Beautiful. We can do that. That'll mean you've covered level 1 and level 2. Level 3, power, mid, find, count ifs, round up, rand between. And then to get a level 4, you need a lookup. So your VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, or your nested if. That's the only way you're going to get one meaningful calculation from level 4. Okay, so just understand that. Right, then on your database, you need a basic design, one table. The table has 5 fields. All fields have appropriate meaningful names, and the fields contain single data units. Right? That's fine. That's simple. There's your 4 marks. The next one, validation. All text fields are set to an appropriate size. So we don't leave it as 255 characters. We make it like about 20 or 30 characters depending on the particular field. There's one appropriate validation rule in text. So for having a validation rule in text, you get a mark. One appropriate list combo box and one appropriate input mask. So you can see those are the only real things you need to know there to be able to insert into your table, right? Remember, these are tables, properties that we find in a table. Things that we go and set over there. Your database must have at least 20 relevant records in one or more tables. So just one table. At least one query. Then a second query and a third query. So they want one table and 3 queries. Just for having those 3 queries, ladies and gentlemen, you'll be getting your marks, right? Yeah, I don't want to say this, but let's say you've done nothing in the query other than create it. And it's based off of your table. You'll get your marks, okay? But please remember that it's got to be meaningful. It has to support the problem, the solution. Otherwise, you're not going to get those marks. So don't think you're just going to create some blank story based off of almost nothing. Please don't do that because you won't get those relevant marks. And then the complexity of the query, again, similar to what we saw in Excel. One meaningful aspect from level 1, that's your greater than, less than, not, and is null. Level 2 will be where we're using like ranges or saying between. Level 3, where we're using arithmetic operators or the date of time. And then a level 4 is where we're using sum, min, max, average, count, or we are grouping, things together, etc. Okay. If you're using if or text functions as well. So that's how you'll get the 4 marks there. Right. Then the only other thing that's left is when you hand it in with your database to have at least one relevant, meaningful, and correct report. So your report, we know how to create a report. We can create it with our report wizard. But by having one report and having the report sorted and grouped. Now remember, this, ladies and gentlemen, you can do inside of your report wizard. All right, so your report wizard will give you most of these marks. The report wizard will help you to create a relevant and meaningful report. You'll do the sorting and grouping inside of that. And then once you're done with that, you can always add a calculation into the report footer. Okay, and that's how you'll get your 4 marks. And that's what takes us up to 44 marks. So let me see if I have an example for you. Let's go to the questionnaire. I see this individual created a document, right? Questionnaire based on online collaboration tools. That was last year. There you can see the person has that area to select male and female, the age. There they've asked a few questions, right? And you can see it's yes, no, or, you know, on a scale of 1 to 10, or choose any one of the following, right? So this is what a typical questionnaire, if you're using Word, you know, to create an electronic form, this is what it could look like. This is very simple, right? But you can do that. We're going to use our developer tab. We're going to use our control section to put in controls, right? Okay, so we've got that. Then we're going to take that and we're going to turn that into a spreadsheet, right? Again, not the best of spreadsheets, but a simple one. These areas over here are basically the questions that were asked. Okay, so those 5 questions that you are going to create in your database, they'll become your 5 fields. In your spreadsheet, they'll become your 5 headings. You can see here are all the answers to those questions. What they did over here was to pop in a formula, count if. This one's also got a count if in there. Again, you need to use different formulas, right, in order to get all 4 marks. And this one had the 2 charts there as well. So your spreadsheet, again, should have the result of your questionnaire. It's got to have formulas in it. It's got to look neat and professional. And then you have to have your charts as well. I don't think there's anything that they needed there. Right, and then from there, we go over to the database. And you can see the database has, right, there we go. Database has a table. And you can see the different fields. So we would go into the design view. We'd go and look at the different fields and what was actually done there. Okay. But you just need one table. And then you need 3 queries. All right. You can see there's one query. This person didn't go through everything properly, but that's what you need. You need 3 queries and a report. Okay. This individual obviously didn't go do everything properly, but yeah. Let me check this one. There's another table over there. You can see you don't need to worry about these. They just want at least those 5 fields, and that relates to the questions that you had. There you can see the person's filled that in, and then they've got a query as well. Okay. So that's basically what you need to have, grade 12s. Yeah, that's what you need to have in order to get your 44 marks. The database, having your table, 3 queries, and a report, your Excel spreadsheet, just bringing everything that the questionnaire had, having it in a professional look, having your calculations, and then your charts as well. And yeah, that's what's needed for phase